Okay, so my name is Charles Tiano. It's very nice to meet all of you, and so I've worked with Sanjeev now for close to 2 years, and before we talk about the strategy, I want you to understand one thing, is that Sanjeev takes his business very seriously, and those of you that aren't clients, this community, and it's fitting that we're at the Indian Community Center, because when I first started working with him, he said, Charlie, my community is what matters. He goes, there can be any business out there. There can be any business out there, but my community is what matters. He goes, so when any single one of my clients come in and you get a chance to speak with them, you make sure that they understand the goods, the bads, and the indifference. And that's the reason why I'm allowed to work with Mr. Gupta, is because of the fact that I understand the effort that you all put into your work and how you earn money. The strategy of the conservation easement partnerships has gotten quite a bit of bad publicity because of the fact that it's so powerful. It's essentially just a real estate transaction that has an alternative outcome. Think about it, I don't know how long all of you have lived here in the Bay Area, but if you look 15 years ago, if I would have said, hey, you guys want to buy a piece of property in Livermore, you would have just laughed. Now, today, we see the development happening in Livermore. That is just the type of transactions that we work on, is to see places that are continuing to be developed, bringing on investors that are tax motivated, environmentally minded, and have charitable intent, to choose to give away all future development rights and receive a charitable deduction that they can use against their, up to 50% of their income in the current year and carry forward any excess. Now, the interesting part of these transactions is that a charitable deduction is based on the highest and best use value of that property, not the fair market value of that property. And a highest and best use value has to be substantiated by data because it is subjective. If you look at the tables that you're all sitting at, the development opportunity on those tables, if we were to give that away and say, this table is still going to sit here, but we're never going to be able to put anything on here in perpetuity forever. Well, you've just given away the value of that table. It's the same with land. And the property owners that I work with have that same feeling, where they want to essentially give away the development rights on their property, but they don't need the full scope of the charitable deductions they're not generating. So therefore, we bring on partners that will choose to conserve the property, and they will get their pro rata share of the charitable deductions. Now, the valuation of that property has to be done by independent qualified appraisers. This is where the federal government gets involved. This tax code was written in 1976 to continue because of the fact that development was happening so much that the Ted Turners of the world and the people that own massive pieces of property were going to sell to developers. So the only way that they could get landowners to stop developing was to incentivize them through the tax code, just like solar credits. A lot of people would not have solar on their houses if it wasn't for the fact that it was incentivized through the tax code. People wouldn't conserve their land and their private land if it wasn't incentivized through the tax code. The tax code allows someone to give away all development opportunities on their property in perpetuity. That value, being that it's above the fair market value and that it's subjective, can be quite high. Substantiating that value with data is what makes sure that if the IRS challenges that value, that you're ready and it could stand up to and withstand the test of time. Now imagine if any one of you in the room here had 500 acres in the city of Livermore, and you did not want to sell to a developer, and you wanted to conserve it, and maybe that would generate you a $30 million charitable deduction. Well, right here by tax law, it says you can take that up to 50% of your adjusted gross income and carry it over for 15 years. That would mean a $30 million deduction on that piece of property that you might have bought for $200,000, but because you could develop a senior living community on there, or an apartment complex or a strip mall, you would still need $60 million in income to utilize that full entire charitable deduction. So tell me, who's going to give away their property if they can't use the tax code to the fullest extent? Most people aren't. Most people don't have that type of income to utilize that deduction. This is why these partnerships are so powerful, because now that property is placed into an LLC, and 98% of that partnership is sold off to people that have incomes that are high, over $400,000, that can utilize a portion of that charitable deduction.